One of the questions I get asked most often from Gen X clients and prospects is this: should I pay for my kids' college or should I focus on funding my retirement? And it's a fair question. As a Gen X parent, you feel the pressure of wanting to give your children a head start in life while also knowing that you need to secure your own financial future. That tension is real. But here's what I say. In most cases, retirement planning should take priority over college funding. Today, I want to walk through some of the key reasons why prioritizing your retirement usually makes more sense and how that decision can actually help your children in the long run as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniel Miller, and I'm a financial advisor that helps families steward their wealth with purpose and generosity. The first reason retirement usually takes priority is that Gen X has a limited timeline to prepare. Most Gen Xers are in their 40s and 50s, which means retirement could be as little as 10 to 20 years away. That's not much time when it comes to investing. Here's the challenge. Lost time in retirement planning can't easily be recovered. The closer you get to retirement, the fewer years your investments have to compound and grow. And that means every dollar you save today has far more potential than a dollar you save 5 or 10 years from now. Contrast that with college, which is typically a 2 to 4 year expense. And there are many different funding options for education: scholarships, grants, work study, loans, and even flexible choices like starting at a community college or attending in-state schools. Retirement doesn't come with those same safety nets. There are no scholarships for your 70s, and there are no retirement loans you can apply for. Think about a fictional parent like Mark, age 48. He has 2 teenagers and feels pressure to cover their college costs. But retirement is only 17 years away. If Mark diverts too much toward tuition now, he may enter retirement with a shortfall that's impossible to make up later. But if he prioritizes retirement first, he secures his own future, and his kids still have multiple ways to fund their education. The second reason retirement comes first is simple. There are no loans for retirement. Once you leave the workforce, you can't borrow money to cover your basic living expenses, healthcare, or a lifestyle you hope to maintain. College, on the other hand, comes with multiple safety nets. Students can apply for scholarships, grants, and financial aid. They can take out federal or private loans. They can work part-time or explore lower-cost education paths, like starting at a community college and transferring. While debt is never fun, the reality is that education offers financing options. Retirement does not. Let's go back to our example of Mark. He's 48 with 2 teenagers about to head off to college, and he feels torn. Should he raid his retirement savings or cut back on his 401k contributions to cover tuition? On the surface, helping his kids feels noble. But when we step back, the numbers tell a different story. If Mark sacrifices his retirement savings now, he's potentially robbing himself of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands in lost growth over the next 2 decades. And unlike his kids who can borrow for school, Mark won't be able to borrow his way through his 70s. Here's the part many parents overlook. Most children would rather graduate with some manageable debt than face the emotional and financial strain of supporting their parents later in life. When you prioritize your retirement, you're not turning your back on your kids. You're actually protecting them, ensuring they won't have to step in and shoulder your financial burdens down the road. The third reason retirement should usually come before college funding is longevity and healthcare costs. People are living longer than ever. For Gen X, retirement isn't likely to be 10 or 15 years. It could be 20, 30, or even 40 years. And that's a lot of years where your savings need to support you. And here's the reality. Healthcare costs are one of the biggest wildcards in retirement. According to Fidelity's most recent estimates, a 65-year-old couple retiring today may need over $300,000 just to cover medical expenses throughout retirement. And that number is expected to rise. Unlike tuition, which is a fixed 4-year bill, healthcare is unpredictable, ongoing, and often much higher than families anticipate. If we go back to Mark, at 48, he's healthy. But like most of us, he doesn't think much about what healthcare might look like in 20 years. He's focused on his kids' tuition bills, which feel immediate and tangible. But if Mark sacrifices retirement savings now, he's putting himself at risk of being unprepared for those larger, less predictable costs in the future. Imagine being in your mid-70s and realizing the money you put toward tuition decades ago could have been the difference between affordable, quality care or not. That's a painful reality that many retirees face. Here's the key takeaway. College has an end date. Tuition bills eventually stop, but healthcare doesn't. And the financial burden of medical costs and retirement can easily exceed what you might spend on even the most expensive college tuition. That's why putting retirement first isn't selfish, it's actually essential. Another powerful reason to prioritize retirement is that financial independence protects your children. Think about it. If you enter retirement with enough savings, you give your kids the gift of not having to worry about supporting you later in life. But if you struggle financially in retirement because you sacrifice too much for tuition, your kids may end up carrying that burden emotionally and financially. Let's look at two examples. Mark, we've been following, chooses to prioritize retirement. He continues funding his 401k and makes steady progress toward his long-term goals. His kids may need to take out some student loans, apply for scholarships, or work part-time in college. It's not easy, but they graduate with manageable debt and know their parents' future is secure. They never face the stress of worrying about whether dad will have enough money in retirement. Now, contrast Mark with Susan, another parent in her late 40s. She decided to pay fully for her daughter's private college education, even though it meant cutting back on retirement contributions for nearly a decade. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do, giving her child every possible advantage. But fast forward 20 years, Susan retires with a smaller nest egg, rising healthcare costs, and inflation eating into her savings. Her daughter, now an adult with her own family, feels pressure to step in and help cover expenses. What began as a gift ended up becoming a long-term burden. Most kids would prefer their parents chose Mark's path. They'd rather have some responsibility in college, taking loans, finding grants, or working summers, than feel the heavy responsibility of supporting their parents in retirement. When you put your retirement first, you're not abandoning your children. You're modeling financial wisdom and protecting them from future hardship. Another reason retirement comes first is that college is far more flexible than most people realize. There's a cultural myth that the only right path is sending your child away for 4 years, paying $30,000 to $40,000 a year, covering room and board, and checking the box as a successful parent. But that's simply not true. And that belief has cost families enormous amounts of money with little long-term benefit. Higher education today offers countless options. Students can start at a community college and transfer to a 4-year university. They can attend an in-state school at a fraction of the cost of a private one. They can take online courses, combine work and study, or pursue scholarships and grants. The path doesn't have to look like the glossy brochure version. Think back to our examples. Mark's kids may need to get creative, applying for aid, working summers, or even choosing a more affordable school. But they graduate with opportunity and independence, knowing their father's retirement is secure. They've seen firsthand that financial wisdom sometimes means making smart trade-offs. Meanwhile, Susan's daughter had the dream campus experience, but it came at the cost of her mother's retirement security. That's not a trade-off most children would choose if given the choice. They'd rather see their parents stable, independent, and able to enjoy retirement than graduate with zero loans, but face the guilt of financially supporting mom and dad later. The bottom line is that college is flexible, retirement is not. Don't sacrifice your financial future for a version of college that isn't the only path forward. It's also important to remember that higher education has evolved. There are now countless affordable alternatives that don't require parents to drain their retirement accounts. Starting locally and transferring can cut total costs in half while still ending with the same degree. In-state tuition is often a third or a quarter of private school costs, with quality programs that rival national universities. Many accredited universities now offer flexible online programs which allow students to work while they study. Billions of dollars in aid go unclaimed each year, and even modest awards can add up significantly. These options don't take away from your child's future. They simply make the path more sustainable. By exploring them, you can protect your retirement and set your kids up for success. Here's another angle most parents don't think about. When you're financially secure in retirement, it actually multiplies your impact. A well-funded retirement doesn't just cover your own needs, it gives you the freedom to help your children in ways that go beyond tuition. For example, parents who retire comfortably are often able to gift money to children later, helping with weddings, down payments, or even their own kids' college funds, provide a safety net in times of crisis, stepping in if a child loses a job, faces medical bills, or encounters unexpected expenses, be generous without stress, giving to causes, communities, or family members without worrying about running out. Think of Mark again. By choosing to prioritize his retirement, he not only protected his own future, but also created flexibility to help his kids later. Maybe that looks like helping with student loan payments after they graduate or contributing toward a first home. Now, compare that with Susan. Because she sacrificed her retirement for tuition, she enters retirement strapped for resources. Instead of being able to help her daughter later in life, she finds herself leaning on her daughter for support. The roles are reversed, and the gift of a fully paid college experience has now turned into a burden years down the road. Retirement security doesn't limit your ability to help your children. It expands it. It shifts the help to a time when you can afford it and when they might need it most. So let's bring this all together. As a Gen X parent, you're caught in a difficult tension, wanting to give your kids every opportunity while knowing you also need to prepare for your own future. But when you step back and look at the bigger picture, the path becomes clearer. You have a limited timeline to prepare for retirement. Lost years can't be recovered. There are no loans for retirement, but plenty of funding options for college. Rising longevity and unpredictable healthcare costs make retirement planning essential. Financial independence protects your children and models wisdom for the next generation. College is flexible while retirement is not, and alternatives make education more affordable. And finally, retirement security actually multiplies your impact, giving you the freedom to help your kids later in life when they may need it most. We've seen two different paths today. Mark, who chose to prioritize retirement, and Susan, who sacrificed her future for tuition. One ends with freedom, independence, and the ability to bless the next generation. The other ends with stress, strain, and role reversal. The decision isn't always easy, but it is simple. If you must choose, put your retirement first. It protects you, it protects your children, and it creates the margin for you to enjoy life and still support them down the road. My encouragement is this: don't wait until it's too late to decide. Run the numbers, look at your options, and create a plan that puts your family in the strongest position possible. And if you want help finding clarity in that decision, that's what I do every day, helping families steward their wealth with purpose and generosity. At the end of the day, the best gift you can give your kids isn't a tuition check. It's the example of financial wisdom and the freedom of knowing you'll never become a financial burden on them.